Guys, we're looking forward to the final boss of Midnight. I know we're still basically mid-expansion here, but right now, the way the story's playing out, we're not really sure who it's going to be. I mean, I don't think we're going to fight Xal'atath as the final boss. I expect her to continue to go into the last Titan. Iridikron, another big bad that's sitting out there, but he's also probably a last Titan guy. So who's it going to be? Are we talking old gods here? N'Zoth going to return? Ooh, I don't know. Let's find out here. The final boss in Midnight from Doran.
The last title will be announced in just a couple of months. 12.1 is just around the corner. We have hints what 12.2 will be about. So the real question now is, with all the evidence, who is going to be the final boss of this expansion? We actually have quite a few hints, but realistically,
I know who the final boss is going to be. It's going to be a super pumped up Lura who makes you match 10 symbols instead of 5 symbols. And that's just going to be the end boss of Midnight, and everyone's going to be stuck there. No one's going to get that kill. And we're going to watch Race to World First consist of a bunch of grown men trying to match shapes. That'll be it for sure.
this final boss
Calling
won't
it now.
be the big bad, but just someone that will do something really bad that will transition us into Northrend that will trigger the big Titan return. Something really bad will happen, like Azeroth being transformed into the Void or the prison of Azeroth being broken, and someone is going to do this. Will this be a figure like Queen Azshara that has set up her return for the longest time, an actual old god that has made a pact in the ages past with Xal'atath, or someone entirely different? Let's look at everything we currently know. Imagine if you could have all your games in one place, not having to go to Battle.net, Steam, GOG, and just having everything all over the place.
Who's the sponsor
Play
today?
Tracker is the
Amazing.
perfect solution. You not only organize everything in a single profile, but you also got unified achievements, you can see all your playtime in one place, and best of all, you got all your friends cross-platform. To top it off, there is a really cool quest and leveling system where you gain XP and levels to unlock
interesting.
features. So connect all your gaming profiles right now and create a free account on playtracker.net with my link below. So this is something I wanted to talk about since the start of Midnight, but seeing how the story still isn't fully culminating until now, it's really hard to say because literally no one had any idea where it could go. Literally, all we knew was that we would later go to Northrend, and that was kind of the whole thing.
You know, I don't know what I prefer. There's been basically two ways Blizzard has done expansions. You know, there's the big bad on the box style where you know who the end boss of the expansion is going to be, and he's kind of looming, you know, over the entire expansion like a Wrath of the Lich King, where obviously the final boss in the expansion was going to be, you know, the Lich King himself. And I always felt like that was kind of epic, especially when you got a character as well defined and with such deep lore like the Lich King. It's cool to build up the entire expansion knowing that's where you're going. Like, that's the end goal. Every time you flew by Icecrown Citadel, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to finally go in there and fight him. And then you got the other style where it's like, well, we don't really know. It's kind of like Mists of Pandaria style, where who's the end boss? Okay, Garrosh is the bad guy. We're probably going to end up fighting him at the end. There's all these different, what were they called? The hate guy and the others. I forget what that whole lore cycle was called with those. They're not Loas. They're Shaws. My bad. That's what they were. Yeah, like the Shaw of hatred and all this stuff. Yes. So those guys, you know, you're wondering, are they going to be the end guy? Who's it going to be? It did end up being basically Garrosh. Yeah, an empowered Garrosh using an old god heart was the bad guy there. But who is the big bad? That's kind of become a mystery at times. Again, we went into Legion. Yep, Sargeras. That makes sense. But right now in Midnight, Xal'atath is the big bad. But with a trilogy, we kind of know she's going to continue forward, right? She's not going to die in Midnight. I highly doubt that. I'd be shocked if she was the end boss and we kill her. So there's that style where the entire time you're playing and you're not really sure where we're going with it. Now, do you prefer that? Or do you prefer like the ominous, okay, big bad sitting on his throne and eventually we're going to get to him? I kind of miss that style, but I understand the trilogy style that they're going for right now. I do kind of feel like the Titans are the big bad. And that's where we're eventually going. And they do kind of seem like to be ominously sitting out there right now, waiting for us to finally come and fight them. We'll see if that ends up happening or how that fight goes down.
However, now things are developing. So, to get straight to the point, we already know the campaign for 12.1 will be coming out very soon this summer, and BlizzCon is happening in just a few months with the Last Titan announcement, which means the story post 12.1 will be related to the Last Titan. Right now, we know that 12.1 is the Amani patch, and it is focused on the Isle off the coast of Zul'Aman. There are some hints that 12.1.5 could be related to the Forsaken, but 12.2 is going to be the culminating patch that transitions us into the Last Titan.
Right.
However, I think this whole story will be different because if they announce the Last Titan now, just post 12.1, we already know what happens in Northrend, so 12.2 will be easy to see at that point. It's likely that it will also be announced on BlizzCon and what we can expect to see in 12.2 as well. It's almost certain right now that something really big, probably bigger than ever, is about to happen, and it will be a much bigger event than what we had at the end of the War Within. Now, the reason for that being is that we know what happened with Xal'atath. Of course, the entire Sunwell thing was a dupe. We didn't really accomplish much despite us cleansing the Sunwell. Her entire goal, as we learned, was to distract us so that she can use the corrupted Darkwell to transport her Void army towards the center of the World Soul.
Right, I mean, yeah, she's going towards the World Soul. We know that's kind of where things are going. In Midnight, again, where does that leave us? Is there a boss we're going to fight? Is it an old guy? I don't know. Is it going to be N'Zoth again? There's all these things kind of lining up, but no one has really stepped forward as this is going to be the big bad for the rest of this expansion.
Is confirmed at the end of 12.0.5. This means that this really is the main story that leads us into the Last Titan. The reality is that 12.1 is mainly just kind of like a filler Amani patch, and the 12.1 is probably won't be really
we're gonna get an Amani patch.
It's going to be very likely concentrated on the larger Lordaeron area, which means 12.2 could be located directly in the core of Azeroth, potentially somewhere around Silithus, and something really big is going to happen there that is going to trigger the return of the Titans in Northrend. This leads us, of course, to speculate a few options on who could be the final boss, but the reality is that this final boss probably won't be all that important. So, if you remember,
probably
like
not.
A year or two back, Chris Messer himself talked about Xal'atath and how she's unlikely to be defeated.
I mean, Xal'atath could be the final boss and we just lose. I mean, I'm kind of getting sick of taking L's to her, but she could be the final boss and we just take an L, or we advance her plan in some way, who knows. I'm trying to think how they would tie it into Northrend. And, I mean, honestly, there's one guy coming forward in my head, and it's Murozond. If you guys know, obviously, you know, Murozond, maybe you played Dragonflight and you learned some of this lore again, but you have Nozdormu, right? He's the aspect of time. He's the bronze dragon, and he's supposed to lose his mind and become the infinite dragon Murozond, right? The dragon that sees multiple time ways, the dragon that sees infinite futures, whereas currently he was empowered by the Titans to only see one future. That's, you know, that's Nozdormu's style. Murozond is a dragon who was kind of corrupted, right? He loses his mind. I don't know if maybe we could see Xal'atath kind of trigger that transformation. We supposedly saved him from it in Dragonflight, but maybe she triggers it. And the reason why I'm saying that is you have Dragonblight out there in Northrend. There's dragon attachments and relations, so maybe we get into some infinite dragon Murozond shit, because supposedly he sees a future of the world, right? He loses his mind in the end of the fight. We do fight Murozond back a while ago, and he loses his mind talking about how he's seen the end of the world in the end times. Maybe that comes to fruition. Maybe we see him again, and he tells us how the world's going to end or something. So we'll have to see. I think Murozond could be a way to tie it in.
At midnight, she isn't really like a final boss figure.
We did stop it in Dragonflight. This is true. This is true, which is why I'm saying something would have to trigger it. Maybe Xal'atath does trigger that transformation again. Because you got to remember, like, the way it works kind of is Nozdormu kind of works like a Titan. He only sees one future path. Whereas Murozond works more like the Void. He sees infinite futures, right? That's kind of how the Void works. You never know which one's true. There's all these different truths out there. So that's why I'm saying maybe she triggers that transformation. But I could just be talking shit right now. I just try to figure out how we connect Northrend to what we're currently doing.
A Deathwing bid bag type villain that we gotta catch and defeat, but she's just kind of like unraveling events left and right. Is the Harbinger.
Also, yeah, culling up the timelines. If you're fucking with the timelines, who is that going to bait out? You know, who is the timeline guy? Aman'Thul. That's his thing. He's like the Titan of time, basically. So, hey, if you want to bait out the Titans, if you want to be a master baiter, how would you bait out Aman'Thul? You fuck around with the timeline, right? Just saying, maybe. Maybe.
and we might defeat her
It's
at
kind
the
of making
end,
more
but
sense
like
what I
she
talk
is
about.
going to trigger the big things like the Sword of Sargeras, the Titans, the whole ordeal. My opinion right now is that in 12.2 something really important is about to happen at the core of Azeroth, and that will have to trigger the actual return of the Titans. Keep in mind, so far the Titans are still on our side post Legion, so the evil hints that we have are only from the War Within, but these guys never arrived to Azeroth in person like how they will do now, so something really bad has to happen. The most realistic speculation right now is either Azeroth actually gets corrupted with the Void. The thing is, they always wanted to avoid this, the reason they created a world destroying mechanism in Ulduar that you may remember
Right.
from Brad, or we might actually free the world soul from the Titan prison, which realistically, from their perspective, is probably an even worse deal. So for something like this to happen, either freeing Azeroth or the Void corruption, something that has to happen will be big. But I don't think the final boss will really reflect such an event. It will just kind of be like a figure that is going to push things forward. So one of the early hints we have gotten, like even
Maybe.
6 months back, is that corrupted Illyria.
I mean, I could also imagine he's kind of getting into the Titan stuff. Maybe we go into a Titan facility. The final boss is like some kind of Titan guard system set up to keep Azeroth imprisoned, and we go through, we fight it, and we break it open. And then Xal'atath's waiting there like, oh, you finally did it. You broke it for me, bitches. Here's my feet pick, and I'm going to go take over the world soul now. Maybe that's what happens. A Titan tie-in or a Dragon tie-in is a good way to take us over to Northrend for sure. Titan facility tie-in, that kind of stuff.
Would be the final boss, which in my opinion is kind of the most boring version, but there is some reasoning behind this. One of the bits of evidence is that the Void team, like the music, has like a twisted Illyria theme to it, so by the music it could happen. And of course we had the event where she was defeated by Xal'atath, so the corruption is definitely possible, but as I said, this kind of seems cliche, it seems kind of boring. I think it is the most boring out of all the options. The second final boss option is Queen Azshara, that actually has quite a bit of evidence. Her return is all but imminent. You probably heard about this already, but since Dragonflight we've had that prophecy, the Naga prophecy, then literally everything from that prophecy already happened to the letter, and the final part of the prophecy said, once all this comes to pass, our queen will return. Well, just right now in Qualtalas we got a whole bunch of Naga farming energy for something.
Yeah, the ritual sites.
What? So Azshara returning as the final boss makes sense, or just as a figure for later down the line. I've talked about this, she might not necessarily...
Azshara's too big to just introduce in a single like 0.5 patch and then we kill her as the final boss or something. I think they would have to bring her in soon. She'd have to have a good story build up. I wouldn't want her to just come in for a single part of a patch and we kill her in a boss fight. Yeah, Azshara coined the final boss. What do you mean Azshara coined the final? She is the final boss typically. Maybe Corrupted Titans first. Maybe Corrupted Titans. Have we seen? I mean, who's the Corrupted Titan? Sargeras, supposedly. Even though maybe he's the only Titan who's actually seen the truth. He's the uncorrupted Titan, maybe. Yeah, Azshara coming in, she'd have to have a good build-up. She's too big to just be like a throwaway final boss.
have to be a one-off villain,
Yeah,
but her
could be,
return is all but confirmed. The only discussion is whether Azshara will be just another servant of Xal'atath and the Void, or whether she will kind of be an independent agent, whether she will do her own thing. For someone as important and arrogant as Azshara, I can't really see her being just like a mindless drone of Xal'atath.
Yeah, I can't see that either.
We just have kind of nothing to work with right now, so we can only
Sick of
speculate.
Azshara.
Now, the last, and in my opinion the most interesting possibility, is something I've recently talked about a lot, and that is the old god Murozond, and in my opinion the most interesting option. So just to very quickly sum up the evidence, I've got full videos on this if you want this in detail, but there is some pact with Xal'atath and Murozond that has been ongoing.
This is what I don't understand and why I thought N'Zoth maybe is coming back in some way. Remember the dagger, the last time we saw it, it was with N'Zoth. The last time we saw it, Rathian stabs N'Zoth's outer carapace or whatever with it, and it disappears from his hand. We don't know where the dagger went. We assume maybe it was left with N'Zoth. And then all of a sudden now Xal'atath had it in that cutscene. So has she interacted with N'Zoth again? She raised him from the dead? I don't know. But again, N'Zoth's death always seemed too easy for me. It's just, N'Zoth knew it was coming. Really? The greatest planner just dies to a bunch of raiders? I don't know. So there could be a N'Zoth return. I don't know if he's the final boss of the expansion, though.
for thousands of years, and we still don't know what the full extent of the pact is. Second hint is that Murozond apparently built something in Ny'alotha, and we have no idea what it was, but he really pissed off Xal'atath and she had to attack him, so this is likely related to the World Soul. Ny'alotha was the Black Empire capital, and while we visited it back in BFA, there was just kind of like a vision.
Right
we
here.
Never found out the real location. The so-called sunken city that was probably buried underground, very likely where Xal'atath is going to right now with her Void army. To me, this makes the most sense that Ny'alotha and the actual location of the prison of the World Soul is probably next door, and it's possible that we could go to Ny'alotha as the finale of this expansion. Now, the real evidence is that we data mined a Void version of Murozond, like an actual model in the game a few months back, and now in preparation for 12.1, we got the Twilight Scammer guys serving Masters after they were abandoned by Xal'atath, and them trying to resurrect Kittix, the old God Cataraxi general that they seem to be trying to dig out, that is actually confirmed to be buried under Zulaman. To me, this kinda seems like a small setup for the main story that will happen in 12.2. By this possibility, I could see
these Loa and everything else. There's some old god tie-ins for sure. If we do that Amani patch, which seems to be what the next patch is going to be, you can tie that into old god stuff leading into the next big patch. I really hope we go to Ny'alotha. Me too. The raid version of Ny'alotha we got is not as great as the big freaking artistic renderings we've seen of Ny'alotha. Now, again, that's a sunken city. Who's in the oceans? Who also would know about Ny'alotha? Azshara, right? It makes sense. She would clearly know where that city was. She would have ties to that city. Maybe she doesn't know where it is, but she's looking for it because she knows what kind of power it has. And we all know Azshara's power hungry as shit. So maybe there's a tie-in of both. Maybe Ny'alotha and Azshara and N'Zoth all kind of leak into this expansion.
N'Zoth being the final boss, which some might find like recycling content, but in my opinion, I think it could be very interesting because the time we defeated N'Zoth was weird. I mean, it was constantly like some weird timeline, some vision, but we never actually went to the true location of his prison. It could be possible that Xal'atath legit frees him from his true location, and then we could fight an actual old god, not like the previous version we fought in the past, but like full-on old god. So the gist of it is, we have a few possibilities, like few possible figures lined up as the final boss of Midnight, but realistically, none of them are probably going to be all that important. It will just kind of be like a transition for the Last Titan, and really, the final boss of the saga will happen at the end of the Last Titan as well, like the real final boss that we are kind of used to with regular expansions. However, someone like N'Zoth could turn out to be really interesting if he really is the final boss of Midnight. Thanks for watching. Check out how likely it is that
I have one more
will be
thing to say about
and
that.
changed in the Last Titan by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my brand new Witcher lore channel that I recently opened by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
I will say with N'Zoth's return, I would kind of like it if N'Zoth helped us in a way. You know, he's a schemer, right? And he wants to survive. He doesn't want to die. And he kind of knows, and N'Zoth kind of knows, like, standing against the players typically isn't the best idea. Maybe he helps us defeat the Titans. Maybe he gives us a path forward on how to defeat them. I'm not saying N'Zoth is going to be standing next to us fighting against the Titans with us. But maybe he unlocks the secret to defeating a Titan. Maybe he finds the knowledge on how that gets done. And, maybe we fight him, and then in the end he kind of stops the fight and tells us, okay, now stop fucking around. It's time to focus on these guys, because this is what's going to happen if we don't. And he kind of reveals to us a future where the Titans win. That would be kind of cool. I'd like that. I don't know what we end up doing with N'Zoth there. If we still kill him, how that goes forward, who knows? And then the Murozond stuff, I think, could be a tie-in, too, with the Titans and the dragons and all that. We'll see. But overall, a nice video from Doran, and we'll have to wait and see who the final boss of Midnight is.